Alright, I think we're good. Now we're good. Now I've got the microphone, got my shiny Byleth amiibo and banjo, and some of the most influential people in my life. Oh, better put the pop-up message. There we go. Let's pin that. Perfect. Now we got people knowing what to expect. So for those of you that are watching the stream later, yo, welcome back, JP. Should have known you'd be the first one here because you're one of like the most loyal members of my audience. The title of the stream was more or less just an idea I had to stir up discussions, but if you want to talk about something else, that's totally fine by me. But my gosh, that September Nintendo Direct was like, it basically solidified my claim that I've had since like 2018 that the Switch is a miracle machine. But how are you doing, JP? What are some amazing things happening in your life? Spill it out. I actually kind of like it when you guys talk more than I talk in these things. So hopefully you will have a lot to say. So while I'm waiting for the responses to come, let's start talking about that direct. Let's start with the biggest thing out of the way so that if you all are bored of the rest of the stuff I have to talk about, you can just head on out. Paper Mario 2 is getting a remake. Oh my gosh, that was like a dream come true. The Switch has made so many things possible for me that I wouldn't have thought possible from the old Nintendo. We got Banjo and Kazooie in Smash, Banjo Kazooie on Switch Online. We got everyone in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Mario Odyssey was such a great 3D collectathon platformer. Stanley Parable has all the meta humor. Doki Doki simply exists. There's been so much greatness on the Switch that is so like anti-modern Nintendo. And the Paper Mario 2 has to be like the definition of this is something old Nintendo would have never done because I thought we were going to get like Sticker Star 2 or Origami King HD if you can make it more HD. But like Paper Mario 2 was the weird one. That was the one that came out during an era where Nintendo was just like anything goes with Mario. We're just going to throw in this guy, even if it doesn't make sense, and we're going to be as wild and wacky as possible. And they did it. We would have been happy enough with just simple upscaling. Honestly, if it had just been a port with little to no changes, I would have still been very happy. But the fact that they're going the extra mile to remake it with new graphics and some modified cutscenes, I think a couple of people were talking about that there's some new NPCs. That's going above and beyond what we were expecting, and that is why the Switch is a miracle machine because they did that with Banjo and Kazooie in Smash. That's still one of the greatest moments of my life. If you guys haven't seen the 3,000 subscribers celebration, I suggest you do because you can really see the amount of excitement the Switch alone has brought me. And that's not even talking about all the other great stuff that's happened in my life, like all the retreats and conferences I've been on. But today we're going to talk about the Nintendo Direct. Unless you guys mention in the comment section, like, hey, Paul, talk about your mission trips. I'll gladly do that. But for now, let's see how you're doing, JP. A nostalgia trip. Oh, I always love that. Oh, yes. I really hope you're able to get a Switch. Tears of the Kingdom has turned out to be phenomenal so far. I'm actually already on my third playthrough. That's how much I love it. And each playthrough has been wildly different than the rest of them. Like my first playthrough was more of just figuring out how the game worked. The second playthrough was realizing that Fuse existed. and also like taking advice from my friends on how to maximize my resources and all that. The third one is me trying to have the UI display as little as possible so that I can just wander around the world at my own pace. I don't even know if I'll finish it a third time, but I'm just happy enough that it's so infinitely replayable because there are so many different ways to do it. Yeah, I'm being vague on purpose because I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say that probably a lot of people are going to make it their game of the year, and I wouldn't blame them. I do think it's probably one of those games that deserves that mantra. It is a technical marvel. Like the fact that they could get, well, I better not say that. There's a lot of stuff that they added that shouldn't be possible on the Switch, but it did. Hello, Matt. Unless if you've changed your name, I don't think we've ever met. My name's Paul. I'm the world's most boring live streamer. I don't really live stream too much, so enjoy it while you can. I love to review video games. Got a review of F-Zero 99 coming up in a few minutes. Also like to talk about the Catholic Church and Myers-Briggs. I don't know why people like my unboxing videos so much, but they really seem to like them, so that'll come. Yes, I did finish Breath of the Wild. Do you have to finish it? Um, I would say it's ideal because then you've like familiarized yourself with the world and the controls and the general gist of how this new style of Zelda works. Tears of the Kingdom tries very hard to like not mention a lot of the stuff that happened in the previous game. Like it doesn't really mention the champions or the divine beasts or the guardians or the Sheikah. A lot of that stuff is just completely glossed over. But since it's using the same map and it expects you to know the map, it expects you to want to go to all of the old locations and be like, oh, wow, that's really changed in the time since Breath of the Wild. I think you would be okay if you played Tears of the Kingdom first, but it wouldn't be ideal because, again, it it's designed for people that have already mastered Breath of the Wild and want to experiment with more. Uh, I didn't buy an amiibo. My patron bought it for me. So I actually did an unboxing video, which I'm sure that's why you came. I got this, which I know the amiibo itself is probably not too cool to look at, but I like it because one, I really love Fire Emblem Three Houses, probably like a top five type of game for me at present. But also, I got to meet Zach Aguilar at Comic Con, and so he voiced Mel Byleth in Three Houses, and so I think it's honestly kind of perfect because the three people I met at Comic Con, excuse me, I have bad allergies. The three people I met at Comic Con were Charles Martinet, Zach Aguilar, and Tara Platt. So the fact that I got one of the three is amazing. Yeah. Yeah, he's Matthew Rakowski's pretty amazing. He's my top tier patron. Oh gosh, these allergies. He he also bought me Near Automata for the Switch and Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse. Neither of which were particularly great games, but at the same time, I still respect the fact that he's just like, hey, Paul, want some games? Because I want you to review more games. And I'm like, okay, cool. That's great. So thank you for stopping by. Do you have any suggestions for future videos? I do try to take fan feedback, or people I'm saying I shouldn't say fans. I am trying to take viewer feedback into account as much as possible. So as long as it's realistically possible, I try to do pretty much anything as long as it doesn't go against my values. By the way, guys, if you have any thoughts on the Nintendo Direct, I want to hear them. Like I said to JP earlier before you showed up, I actually like it when you guys talk more than when I talk. So don't be shy of like spamming my comments. Like, I want to hear everything. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So feel free to interrupt me as much as you want. Although sometimes I know that chat can be a bit slow on my channel, so sometimes I just talk to make sure I'm not just waiting for you guys to type. So in the meantime, other great stuff about that direct besides Paper Mario 2. There was a lot of stuff that was repeated from the June direct, so I'll kind of skim over that and get to the big stuff. Trace Memories coming back. Of course, they're not calling it Trace Many. They're not calling it trace memory anymore. They're calling it another code, which was what it was called in Japan and Europe. We're getting the original DS game completely redone from the ground up, which I never would have thought possible, so that's amazing. And we're also getting a full-on remake of the Wii game, which never came to America. So that's going to be an all-new experience for me. I did really like the original Trace Memory quite a lot, but I'm happy that I'm able to re-experience it and to be able to actually give you guys footage for it. Ah, I can see why your brother would say that about Nier Automata. Unfortunately, it's not really the type of game for me because it's very philosophical and very like what if, and like a lot of stuff is based off of philosophical theories, and that's just not my type of game. I'm more of a realist type of person. That's why my favorite book is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It's the kind of narrative that feels like if you were to take away all of the magic elements of it, it could theoretically happen in real life. It doesn't propose a whole lot of crazy pseudoscience or all these abstract stuff. It's like, okay, we're going to go on an adventure. We're going to defeat the bad guy. It sounds simple in practice, but yet the plot twists are intricate, but yet they're easy to follow along at the same time. You don't have to ask yourself, what is the Elder Wand? It's told, Elder Wand, most powerful wand in existence. That's easy for anyone to understand. That's a short little mini review of Deathly Hallows. I don't want to spoil it for those of you that haven't read it, but um, I I hope I can eventually redo that Deathly Hallows movie by book comparison because that was one of my favorite videos to do, and I just didn't have time and didn't really know how to do that. But I do eventually want to share my excitement of why I love Deathly Hallows so much. F-Zero 99 was another highlight of the direct for me. My thoughts are a bit more mixed than what most of the internet has to say. I thought it was pretty fun at first, and then it got old really quickly, especially because the controls just seemed to get worse. Maybe it's just because it wasn't designed for a pro controller in mind, but I wasn't really that good at the original F-Zero to begin with, so it was the kind of game that I was like, okay, I'm hoping that the battle royale mode will actually touch it up because Super Mario Brothers 35 did that. That game took a game that, if you look back at it, really doesn't control very well and modernized it so that it controlled more like the new Super Mario Brothers games did, while still having the engine of the original Super Mario Brothers. That's what I was hoping here, and not really. It was still pretty fun while it lasted. Don't want to spoil my whole review for you guys, but it's coming up. In fact, let me check the progress of it right now. 84%. You might even get a notification during this stream that it's out. Let me think. The trace memory, I already said that. Princess Peach got a name and more of a gameplay reveal. That was pretty cool. I think one of the biggest disappointments of the direct for me was that none of the third party stuff was really that great. Tomb Raider 1 through 3 was probably the best announcement, but even that is like hardcore rental. Because I remember I played the first Tomb Raider on PlayStation and we had a stupid amount of fun with the first level. We would always try to like trap the butler in the freezer because the PlayStation era was like the era where there were a whole bunch of conspiracy theories about video games because this was way before the internet was readily available. So we thought that the butler, if he got close enough to us, would try to murder us. So we had this conspiracy where we tried to get the butler to chase us and like lured him into the refrigerator, and then we all freaked out when his hands clipped through the refrigerator and still tried to get us. By the time we got to level 2, we were like, "Oh, now the game's not even fun anymore." So we spent like I think we spent like 3 hours just on level 1 and the butler alone. But I think if I were to go back and replay it, I probably wouldn't like it as much because we didn't have all that conspiracy going on. Generally speaking, the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation era had a whole lot of urban legends surrounding it. Like there was the urban legend that the silver star in the courtyard of Princess Peach's backyard was like trying to tell us a secret message, and we tried so hard to try to like read the message at just the right angle. There was a rumor that Luigi was secretly playable if you did all this crazy stuff. There was also the rumor that Dory, the beast in the basement of Hazy Maze Cave, would try to eat you. And yeah, N64 games are very weird. I don't think I ever thought of a conspiracy theory for Ocarina of Time because I got into that game really late. Like, I didn't start playing Ocarina of Time until the GameCube was out. So I was a bit more sensible, I guess you could say. Like, I learned how to take things more at face value as opposed to overly speculating too much and following a bunch of urban legends and whatever people said. But boy, when I first played Ocarina of Time, oh my, that was an experience. Because what you have to remember is by the time I got into Ocarina of Time, the games that I had previously played on the Nintendo 64 were Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Tarzan, and A Bug's Life. I think those were like the only 5 I had ever played. So my standards were pretty low for what I considered a good video game. And Ocarina of Time felt like it should have been on another system because it just blew my mind so much with what it was able to accomplish on the same hardware that did Banjo-Kazooie. I thought the night and day cycle was mind blowing. The ability to go into a shop and like buy supplies, I thought that was really cool. The idea of like the world changing over time, it was so incredible. Of course, nowadays I find it very hard to go back to Ocarina of Time as Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild have blown Ocarina of Time out of the water. But I would say if I had to pick and choose between which one of the two games left a bigger impression, I would probably say Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom, I think overall I've considered it the better game than Breath of the Wild now that I'm on my third playthrough. Uh, Tears of the Kingdom didn't initially leave as big of an impression on me because I had to get used to how the crafting worked. And like I said, I didn't really take advantage of Fuse until my second playthrough. But I think Tears of the Kingdom ended up being more of a refined, amazing experience, whereas Breath of the Wild was more of like, oh my gosh, this is what Zelda is capable of? This is mind blowing. Especially the fact that it was on the Wii U. Like, it came out the same day that the Switch came out, and yet I was like, oh my gosh, if only this came out earlier in the Wii U's lifestyle, it possibly could have saved the system. Man, I've been gabbing so much. I hope you guys aren't bored by all of this. But I just am so happy by what's going on in life. You got the direct brought in so many great reveals. Comic-Con happened, Kalahari happened. I might be getting a promotion at work. I'll find out on Monday if that comes true. Your sibling? What about him? Oh, yeah, he's something to be thankful for as well. Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes I do that too, where I hit the enter button too quickly. Uh, You might have noticed I'm looking up, and that's because I've got a lot of Mario-related things on my wall that I just love looking at. I've got some signs for, like, the various drinks that were at my birthday party. So we got Koopa Kiwi, Princess Peach Punch, and Goomba Guava. I've got a bunch of Mario stars that are, I guess, supposed to be the night sky, a cloud, and a one-up mushroom. Used to have a fire flower and a regular mushroom, but the tape lost its stickiness, for lack of a better word, and now it's just on the floor. I'm not as much of a neat freak as the average person. I like things to be organized, but not like OCD organized. I like it to be just enough where I know where things are, but I don't have to be like obsessive of, oh gosh, you moved it half an inch to the left. Oh, I'm gonna throw a fit. I've gotten past that era of my life. Actually, guys, I hope you will say some prayers for me because one thing that I'm probably going to have to do while I'm waiting around for um, my promotion is I'm going to have to sell most of my games. I'm not really good at setting up stuff like Facebook Market, and my brother doesn't seem to know how to be like my spokesperson. So I'm going to be giving away a lot of my games I don't know if you guys want me to do like a reveal of what those games are, and you can say you're getting rid of that game. I I wish I could sell them to you guys, but I just don't know how. I don't have a printer to like print out the label. So just say a prayer that I'll be able to figure out this money situation. I know that people of my personality type are generally pretty good at saving money, but this was something came up that I didn't really expect. And I also, when I originally, I don't want to get into it, it's a pretty complicated story. But I trust that God'll get me through it. I mean, he's got my parents through way worse. So I imagine I'll probably get that gene. God has done amazing things for me in my life. Like, you guys would be flabbergasted by a lot of the stuff God has done. For starters, Matt, I know you're a bit newer, but I actually had a miraculous healing done on me back in 2018. That was actually how JP and I met. We went on that same mission trip, and he got to see this live. Well, not the miracle itself. He got to see me doing a testimony about the miracle where we were in Eucharistic adoration, and the oh, you've never heard the story? Oh boy, you're in for a treat. So, we were doing Eucharistic adoration, and the priest decided that he was going to tell us the story of when the woman had hemorrhages and she was trying to reach Jesus, but he like had a whole bunch of people surrounding him on all sides. So she's like, if I can't actually get to talk to him, the best I can do is just touch his clothes, and that'll be enough to heal him. And she did. So the priest said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put two pieces of cloth underneath the monstrance. And so, because we Catholics believe that, the host is the true body of Christ, then therefore whatever's touching it is his clothes. So he said, all of you can feel free to come and touch the cloth and let yourself be healed just as the woman with hemorrhages were. So to set the stage, I had had really bad back and shoulders for most of my life. I would say the back problems started around when I was maybe 13, and the shoulder problems started around when I was 16. I remember the exact moment when they started. I was at a conference, and I was getting a little bit too excited during all the moments where we would raise up our hands and go like that. And I pulled my shoulder during that moment. And I remember my left shoulder had never been the same since. So I got up to the cloth and I kissed it and I said, okay, so Lord, I would love it if you could either get me back together with my girlfriend, because we were kind of in a bit of a taking a break stage where we wanted to figure out where our relationship was going. And the other thing was, I said I wanted to get better at recognizing faces. Well, God cured none of those because I broke up with my girlfriend the day after the mission trip, and I'm still pretty bad with faces. But one thing he did do was, a couple of seconds after I kissed the cloth, I felt this very warm, kind of like hot tea type of sensation trickling down my back, and it eventually spread to my shoulders. And suddenly it like felt like this really soothing heating pad was on me. Like, keep in mind, this was in July, and so it was like blazing hot, but it was like a good kind of heat. And I suddenly was able to move my shoulders all around, and I was twisting and turning, lifting them up to the ceiling. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not in pain anymore. I gotta get this checked out. So I went to the camp nurse, and she did a couple of basic examinations on me, and she was like, I can't spot any major back problems that you're experiencing. You must have actually been miraculously healed. So I wanted to prove it. So I told the priest, oh, it absolutely was divinity, because we Catholics believe in the true presence of the Eucharist, that it is Jesus's body. So I went to the priest and I told him I was miraculously healed, and he was so happy that he said, Paul, I'm going to be talking about healing during my homily on Thursday, because this was Tuesday night when the adoration happened. So he said, 2 days from now, are you willing to give a testimony about how God healed you? And I said, sure. And I did. And someone managed to film it and put it on YouTube. So then I took that original video, edited out the personal information that I didn't want everyone to know. And what I did was I ended up doing 10 push ups on the stage, when before that, the last time I had been able to do 10 push ups was like, I don't know, when I was 15. So this was This was proof for just about everyone at the camp that I had been miraculously healed. So I like to give this story as like a testimony to anyone that believes that either the true presence in the Eucharist isn't real or Jesus doesn't do miracles anymore. He only did it when he was on earth. That relics aren't a thing. That you have to believe in God and that's enough. Touching a relic, pfft, no way. Jesus's clothes were a relic. Jesus himself obviously is fully God and fully man. That's obvious. But the woman touched his clothes, meaning that she probably didn't even touch him. She probably touched like the draping part of his tunic that was like dragging along the dirt. Yeah, I am old enough to be a relic, Yubi. Well, welcome in. Haven't heard from you in a while. I thought you'd be happy to know that I beat Coffee Talk episode 2 and I did a review of it. I forget how I got. Oh, I think it was because I had a gift card. How are you? Oh, I'm doing incredible. I just finished telling the story of how I was miraculously healed. The Nintendo Direct that just came on was pretty amazing, especially the Thousand Year Door remake. Hope you'll be able to get into that. Uh, 2023 has been a really great year, honestly. Really, the only thing I have to complain about right now is the fact that my financial situation is a bit difficult, but I have a bunch of plans and backup plans on how to fix that. So I'm not just sitting around and moaning that I've got bad finances. I'm actually like being proactive. I'm talking to a lawyer. I'm talking to my boss to try to get a promotion, which I should be getting, or at least I should be finding out on Monday if that'll happen or not. I'm, going to sell most of my video games. Rest in peace, Fire Emblem Three Houses. But at the very least, if my lawyer manages to come through with some legal matters that I'm not really supposed to talk about at the moment, then it's possible it's possible that I could rebuy some of those games. So I'm not totally losing hope. It's more so if these are games that I can afford to not replay again in the near future and could probably just walk through if I'm desperate. Yeah, I would think so, Yubi. Probably, yeah. Although I think I'm significantly older than you are. I'm so old that I was probably around when the wheel was invented. So, I think that's about all that I wanted to say about the direct. I didn't think that I would be able to waste so much time. I guess I thought that it would take a lot longer, but a lot of the stuff that they mentioned was stuff that was already announced. Like we already knew Mario RPG was getting a remake. We already knew about the Peach game. We knew Luigi's Mansion 2 was going to get a remaster. Pretty much the only big things from Nintendo were F-Zero 99, uh, the Trace Memory Collection, and the Paper Mario 2 remaster, which I already beat F-Zero 99 and I'm putting a review of it. Let's see if it's all done. Oh, it's in the checking stage, so it's out. If you guys want to, if you guys already want to like skip this stream and go and watch my review, that's totally fine by me. Again, I am like literally the worst live streamer ever. And no, I'm not kidding. I do think I'm actually pretty pathetic that I don't know how to engage an audience. So if you guys want to convince me that I'm not, I would really love to hear it. Yeah, I think everyone feels like they're old, whoever's not a teenager. So I think what really defines someone as being old is if they feel like they are in a state of mind where they can't do anything. Like if they think that the only thing they're good for is just to waste space and to sit around and wait to die, that's a person who is truly old. Whereas you get people that at the gym that I work at, where I know a man who's in his 70s and yet he tries to work out almost every time that I go in there, I see him. That's the type of person that I would say objectively is old because he's past the age of 50, but at the same time, he feels like someone who's young because he is actually being proactive and not just waiting around to die. Oh, I'm grateful YouTube suggests my videos. That's pretty cool. I think I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I think the reason why that review was suggested was because it's actually the very first review of that game to come out. There have been YouTubers who have made pseudo reviews of it. Like there will be videos saying like this is the best game ever, this is a game of the year contender, but none of them have specifically said review in their title. And that's what I did with Evergate, which is by far my most popular review because I was the very first person on YouTube to review it. And that's why it did so well. So I think that's what it'll do this time. Then again, Evergate is like an indie title and this is a Nintendo game, so it could be different, but we'll see. We shall totally see. So I was curious if you guys had any amazing memories of 2023 that you wanted to share, because obviously you know that, well, maybe you guys don't know actually. So let me give you a bit of a history lesson. I love making lists. I probably have the world record for the most Facebook notes of anyone ever. Most people on Facebook back during the Facebook note heyday may have been lucky enough to write 20 Facebook notes. I think I wrote almost 300 by the time it ended. And every single year since I think 2011 was when I started. Every single year since 2011, I would write a list of the best memories that happened to me that year. And then in 2020, Facebook got rid of notes. So I ended up doing like a Facebook story, but then that was gone after like a couple of hours. So I was like, well, Facebook's not going to stop me from making best memory lists. So then I made best memories of the year lists on YouTube in 2021 and 2022, and I plan on keeping the tradition going. So if you count Facebook and go from there for like how many years I've done a best memories of the year list, then this will be my 12th annual year of making a best memories list. Possibly 13th because I think I might have done one in 2010, but I'm not 100% certain about that because I think that was in an autobiography that I wrote, and I'm not sure if that particularly counts. But either way, I have done it officially online in a way people can view since 2011. So, what are some of the best things that happened to you guys in 2023? It could be you went to Comic Con or an anime convention or a vacation or good games or a promotion. Just lay it all on me. I want to hear it. I'm not going to spoil some of my greatest memories. Some of you have probably already guessed. But there'll probably be a couple of surprises in there. I know there'll at least be a book in there that I don't think I've talked about too much. I should warn you guys, those of you who might be new to my live streams, usually I get a cup of water when I do these, and I forgot to this time. And I don't feel like leaving you guys hanging because I don't have a BRB sign. So it's possible I might end the stream early if my throat hurts too much. Because I'm not used to live streaming. That's more of something that like uh the gaming streamers do, where they live stream their games. I'm just me. I'm hoping that my personality is enough of a contributing factor into the reason why people are watching this. So if you think this is too boring, I'm not going to blame you because I certainly wouldn't want to watch me just blabbing to the audience. If I was the yellow kazoo, I probably would, but I'm not the yellow kazoo. I don't have all the political knowledge that she has. I know a few things about politics, but it's very, very, very basic stuff. Like, I know where the church stands on abortion. I know where the church stands on gay and trans rights, where it stands on like human dignity. But most of what I know about politics is based on what the Catholic Church objectively teaches, as opposed to my personal understanding of social issues. Like, well, then again, I've gotten to the point where, like, by default, I tend to agree with the church regardless because science backs up its assertions. Like, when the church talks about, like, don't do pornography, there are plenty of studies, even outside of the Catholic Church, that show that pornography is actively harmful to the body, and it's especially harmful in relationships. So there's objectively enough scientific evidence as to why you shouldn't look at pornography, even if you're not a Christian, even if you're an atheist. there's no good reason to look at pornography because of the effects that it has on the brain. Why would you want to sabotage yourself? That's like drinking poison. You shouldn't do it. You should be willing to use your survival instincts. But yet the Catholic Church just so happens to condemn pornography, and I just so happen to agree with them. Same thing with basic human rights. Like, I believe that every single human being who's ever been created was loved by God and is a priceless masterpiece. And that person, I actually have heard about that book. I might actually check that out. Might. The only reason why I wouldn't is because the thing is, I'm afraid that if I read about what porn is, it'll make me start to imagine porn. And I don't really want to even go that far. So if you're able to confirm that he talks about what porn does, but not what porn is, then I think that would probably be something I'd want to do. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that I've been doing research on what the church constitutes as the difference between pornography and nudity. And from what I've researched, and I've researched a lot of different sources and talked to a lot of faithful Catholics, spoke to a theologian at a seminary. Actually, he's a professor at the seminary. From what I can gather, the church doesn't condemn nudity as long as it's non pornographic and not intending to be lustful or adulterous. So, um, I'm not going to say I never look at, like, say, naked sculptures or anything like that. In fact, a lot of the naked artwork that is the most popular were actually done by Catholics and are in like Catholic museums. The Sistine Chapel, that's Catholic Church, has a bunch of pictures of naked angels on the ceiling. And at one point they thought, ew, nudity, that's terrible. And so they actually put loincloths over the angels. And when Pope John Paul II went into the Sistine Chapel, he said, remove those loincloths because nakedness isn't a sin. It's pornography, lust, and adultery that's the sin, not pornography. Or no, pornography is the sin. Lust, adultery, that's all terrible. But looking at naked bodies on a ceiling is not intended for arousal. I also did a little bit of research on arousal, and there's like different levels of it. I guess it all depends on what the mind is saying, because I think everyone who's anyone is going to experience sexual attraction to a degree, whether you can help it or not. It's what you do with the thoughts that happen after the sexual arousal that's where it causes sin. Like if you happen to see someone who's beautiful or handsome, depending on your gender, nothing wrong with that. But if you start going further than that, that's where there are problems. That's a good way of wording it, JP. I actually really like that. I think for me personally, I just don't like, I think I like to set a boundary where I don't like looking at and I don't like reading about or experiencing anything that has to do with sex, even if it's like proper within marriage sex. I know that the church doesn't technically condemn, like, if a movie prudently displays sex, but I personally just don't want to look at that stuff because I want to save even the feeling, even what it feels like. I want to save that for my future wife. Like, obviously, I've looked into like a few of the basics of like what constitutes painful sex and all that, but as far as like the sensations and the all of that. My girlfriend told me one thing and it freaked me out. And then from that point on, I just said, no more. Don't talk about sex anymore. That's enough of my innocence lost from that one statement. But thankfully, that statement was so abstract that I don't really know how to interpret it. So I'm just going to say, okay, well, moving on. I should say my ex girlfriend because she and I are no longer together. But even though we're no longer together, I did forgive her for all of the stuff that she did. And I've been trying to use that as like a testimony to people that have had struggles with their exes. And like some people, they think that if you've had a really bad relationship with a past boyfriend or girlfriend, that you should just immediately cut off all contact. And I think that's definitely true if the person was toxic or actively harming you. But I also think it's possible to forgive people for genuine terrible things and still be able to say like, okay, we're not, obviously not compatible for a relationship, but I can still forgive you. I can still be civil with you. We just will be more careful with what we do with each other. So sometimes she and I will like send very innocent type of texts. Like one time she just sent me a text saying, "Hey, I found this plate and it looks like Kirby." You know, stuff like that. Nothing that would be like trying to hit on each other or anything like that. Sometimes I'll say like, "Oh, hey, I went to Comic Con. You want to see the pictures?" Like, very, very innocent stuff. It's very sporadic. It's not regular like I do with my other friends. It's like once every 3 or 4 months do we ever talk to each other. But whenever we do, we'll still do like innocent smiley face emojis. We just won't like say a lot of the flirtatious stuff we used to do. And I think what's especially cool about her is that she owned up to her mistakes. She acknowledged what she did wrong in the relationship and she took proactive steps to, I think she said she went to confession about what she did, so that's good. And she took the adequate steps needed to like do something about her situation rather than just saying, "Oh, woe was me, I sinned, but whatever, I'm just going to deal with it." So, in that respect, I respect her, even if I don't like romantically love her anymore. I might actually make a testimony about that one of these days because I think more people should realize that just because you're not in a relationship with someone anymore doesn't mean that you have to cut them out of your life. Because I'm willing to separate the bad from the good in our relationship. Like looking back, obviously I can say, those were a lot of really bad things that she did that I should have realized from the start. But I can also look at the things that she taught me that were objectively good advice. I've even related it to some people that are like therapists and uh, people that work in the field of mental health, and they've said like, yeah, that's actually pretty sound advice. I also thought I want to give you guys a little bit of a treat. I know this is a tangent, but I realize there's only so much I can say about my ex before I start getting personal. So to tangentially change the topic to something that's more relevant to my channel, I'm going to let you guys know right now that I am really trying extremely hard. Actually, I'm going to put that in the comment. Um, Hope you guys are excited for me taking the feedback from previous end of year videos to make this one even more epic. Okay, perfect. So I've, sent my previous end of year videos to, a good deal of friends who appreciated them. And I said like, lay it on me, what was good, what was bad, what did you think about all those? I even rewatched a lot of them myself over and over again to say, okay, that part wasn't that great. Let's trim out this. Ooh, I like that. Let's keep that in. I've been going above and beyond ever since the start of 2023 to try to make sure that this year's best games of 2023 and best memories of 2023 are going to be show stopping, amazing experiences. I've actually even spent money on hiring uh, my new best friend in like, she's going to be doing some editing, she's going to be doing some voice work. I've got one of my friends is willing to compose a special music track just for the occasion. I've got another friend who's going to be helping me with recording some lines. And I also have tried my best to insert a lot of Paul humor and Paulism into it. So it's definitely going to have its silly moments, but I'm also going to try to like make it so that the 2022 one feels like a tech demo. And that, in my opinion, the 2022 best games of the year list was, in my opinion, the best video I've ever done on the channel. I feel like I just poured so much love and effort into this video that it was honestly kind of overwhelming at the thought of, oh geez, how the heck am I going to follow that up? Like that video was such a tremendous success. What am I going to do for 2023? Well, I took notes. I asked people, what did you think? And they said, liked this part, didn't like this part. And I took that into account. and I just said, I'm going to make this one as epic as possible. So now I'm worried about how I'm going to top 2024's lists. So we shall see. We shall see. Oh man, just thinking about it is making me tired from like, I know it's going to be a lot of work, but yet it's going to be like a fulfilling lot of work at the same time. Like I've been, gathering some resources to like make it better. I've been in contact with my best friend to like make sure that, all the editing is up to snuff and the recordings are up to snuff and all that. So hopefully it's going to take on more of a professional appearance. And I really hope you guys just have the time of your life while you watch it. And I hope that it's a worthy send off to 2023. So I'm starting to get really tired, guys. So I'm probably going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for coming, especially since this was like super unprompted. I just did it because I had the house to myself and I figured some of you have really been wanting more live streams. Am I going to take viewer reviews? Yes, if they're of genres that I'm good at. So, like, for example, if someone suggests a shooter, I'm just going to outright say, no, I can't really do that because I'm terrible at shooters. But if it's something that might be appealing to me that I might not have thought of, sure, absolutely. Like my top tier patron, Matthew Rakowski, the guy who gave me that Byleth amiibo, he suggested that I do Red Dead Redemption. Originally, I wasn't planning on playing that game because I was like, it has a gun, doesn't seem like my kind of thing. But he was like, well, I think that the gunplay is similar enough to Breath of the Wild that it shouldn't feel like a shooter for you. So, in that respect, I said, okay. Don't know when I'll be able to play it, but I will play it at some point. So, yes, JP, if you can maybe look through the games that I've reviewed and look at the ones that I really like, look at like best games of the year lists that I've made, best games ever lists that I've made, and you look at like what genres I'm good at, then yeah, totally. Also, if it's on a Nintendo system, that's another big thing. Got to be on a Nintendo system because if it's on a PlayStation or Xbox or Steam, not going to happen. All right, guys, I am ready to pass out from my tiredness. So, um, I hope that the rest of you have a wonderful day. Thank you to JP and Yubi and Matt McDonald for showing up. Thank you for the 5 people that liked this. It honestly blows my mind that even one person liked this. Uh, I seriously don't know how you guys can put up with me. It's really amazing. So thank you very much. Stay tuned for lots of great stuff coming up on this channel. Stay tuned for a collaboration on Isabel's channel that's coming up. Hope you'll support her because she and I are like basically business partners at this point. I say basically because it's not technical, but money is involved in some of the stuff we do together. So in a manner of speaking, we kind of are. So without further ado, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And until the next time, remember to keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye for now.